the converted man here. Alright, I ran across this paper on called Faithfully Taking Pascal's Wager. Found it thanks to Adherent Apologetics. He talked to the person that wrote this. And I'm going to read some of it to you. Not all of it. Going to go over it and tell you the problems I find in it. And, don't know if you'll listen to this or respond to it or if he will or whatever, but, whatever. It's a thing I'm doing. So here we go. Okay. Faithfully Taking Pascal's Wager. Liz Jackson wrote this. It examines the relationship between Pascal's wager, faith, and hope. Okay. Arguing that Pascal's wager have a genuine faith that God exists. Okay. So whoever takes the wager has faith that God exists. But the wager is not presented that way usually or typically. Typically it's just presented as a reason to have faith in God. So are you suggesting that you already have to have faith in God to take the wager? Then what's the point in the wager? Anyways, so there's a commitment to God and positive cognitive and attitudes towards God's existence. The wager can still hope that God exists and things of that nature. Okay, so, should you believe in God? Well, which God? Which version of God? Now, you capitalized it, so this suggests a proper name of some sort. But which one? There's several to choose from. This is a problem that happens a lot in these sort of things is God can mean anything to anybody and means nothing to some. So what do you mean by this word? Shouldn't that be in here? Shouldn't that be in the intro? Shouldn't you define what you mean by God? Which God are you talking about? Are you talking about some sort of generic deity? Are you talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Who are you talking about? Yahweh, Ashra, Shia the Destroyer? Who? But anyways, Pascal Wager is arguing yes that you should believe, but for a different reason than other people argue. So either God exists or God doesn't exist, and this is all about believing or not believing in that. And we all know the wager, right? So if God exists, the value of believing God is infinitely positive. Okay, here's an assumption being made. Believing in God in and of itself is independent of whether or not that belief is or is not positive. In order to say that it is positive, that's a secondary belief you must have regarding belief in God. These are two separate beliefs going on here. You have a belief in God, and then you have that belief in God is positive. So those things should be separated out, in my view. One could think that believing in God has no positive benefit at all. That belief in God is completely and wholly rational, independent of consequences or rewards involved. In fact, there are no consequences or rewards involved. That God and belief in God doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. That there is a God and you have some sort of reason that you believe for it, whatever that reasons are, and yet you don't have a concept that believing in it is good, bad, or other. It's just you do. And maybe you don't even believe in an afterlife or anything, or reincarnation or anything like that. It's just you think that this is the nature of reality. So that is a separate thing. And then adding on another belief that you have to then acquire in order for this wager to work is that also, besides there being a God, that God has made reality in such a way that it will do something to you depending on if you believe in it or not. So that's a secondary belief, and perhaps multiple beliefs are inherent in that, because you have to believe that God's a certain way, that it wants or doesn't want you to believe in it, and then you have all these reasons and things that you also have to believe to continue believing that. Why would God care what you believe? Why would God need or want you to believe in it? Why would that be rewarded? How do you know that God exists but doesn't award those who believe? Maybe God is the God of the skeptics, and the God of the skeptics does exist, but it is only going to award those who don't believe in it, because God has let humans believe in it, but has deliberately hidden itself so that people won't, necessarily believe in it unless they go to absurd lengths to do so. And the skeptics are passing the test, whereas the non-skeptics, the believers, are not passing the test. So by not believing in God, you actually gain the reward of God. That's an equally valid wager to make. The anti-Pascal wager. So then what? No idea. Because that's the problem with this so-called wagers. You have to have all these beliefs about God in order for it to work. So it doesn't work on those that don't believe in God, that don't believe in an afterlife, that don't believe that those things are even possible or whatever. You already have to have some sort of ideas that align with this already for it to work. And basically you have to take it at face value. You have to go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. You have to not critically analyze it, which is what I'm doing. So, So, given the possibility of going to heaven and having a relationship and union with God, right? So, again, I could just change this to, and I will, reductio ad absurdum. So, the possibility of having a relationship and a union with the skeptical God is equal to the possibility of having a relationship with the non-skeptical God. The skeptical God doesn't want you to believe in God. Stop believing in God and you'll get your reward in full. That's it. That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to get to the thing, is don't believe in God. That's the wager. If you don't believe in God, you get the reward. But if you do believe in God, you don't get the reward. So there you go. Same wager, just flipped on its head. The value of not believing is infinitely negative. Again, this is another belief that you must have in order for this wager to work. So you have 3 different beliefs already that you have to accept or buy into for this wager to function. So it's not just believe in God or don't believe in God. It's all, and it's not that God exists and God doesn't exist. Those are not the only parameters in question here. It's also that the God that you believe in actually has a positive thing waiting for you depending on you believing in it. So that's another category that should be here in this little chart here. Belief in God, asterisk, a God that cares that you believe in it and will reward you for believing in it, and will punish you for not believing in it. So possibility of going to hell and separated from God, right? But hell is, it's a concept usually in Christianity. There's some other things that have similar ideas. So, are you talking about the Christian God? If so, why not just say Yahweh? Why not just make it clear what God you're talking about? The God of the Holy Bible, of the Christian Bible, or something like that. Make it clear which God you're speaking of. Unless this is only being presented to Christians who are going to just assume you're talking about their God. But even then, I would still clarify. So hell is probably an invention of primarily the Catholic Church. It's not really mentioned in the Bible in full. Of course, newer translations put it in there. What you have is parables about a person being separated from God, but that's a parable. It's not meant to be actually real, is it? But then of course, you have Revelations that talks about lake of fire and hell and things, but that's all, cloaked in all sorts of metaphor and probably just about King Nero in the end. So who knows? But this idea of hell, essentially, Dante's Inferno and things like that, got this idea to be adopted. And of course, the Catholic Church loved it because it's a great way to, control people. Being separated from God is incoherent in the Holy Bible. At any rate, if God is everywhere, then you can't be separate from God. So which is it? Is it that God is everywhere, or is it that God is everywhere except for the one place that you're separate from God? How could you ever be separate from God? Unless you stop existing. Then I guess, then you're separate from all the things, If God does not exist, the gains and losses associated with either course of action are both finite. No. Well, yes, but the thing is, believing in something because you also believe that by believing in it will gain you or lose you something doesn't get you to what's true. At best, it maybe, like she might be arguing, gives you a hope. Like, man, I believe I'm going to one day be rich. I've been every other economic class. Well, I haven't been upper middle class yet, so I should become upper middle class, and then above that is rich. I don't know how much income to be considered rich, but it's whatever's after upper middle class, where you can afford, like, I don't know, a mansion or something. But I wouldn't get a mansion, but it's just I could afford one. Then I'm rich. I deserve to be those things because I haven't been those things yet. So the universe owes it to me. And if I just keep believing that I will be, then one day I will be. Of course, that might make me feel nice, but unless I do something or something happens that lets that transpire, it's a dream. It's a hope. It's not real. It's not true. I can't just wish for something to come into existence. So the course of action of believing in something that turns out to not be true, you say, well, that's finite. Okay, yeah, because it's limited to your lifespan. But you affect other people. And your beliefs, if you express them, will affect other people. So you are affecting others by having a belief that is true or a belief that is false. And how much that affects anyone else, who knows? And it also affects you. So the question is not, should I believe in this because I think it's also going to give me a reward? It should be, is this true? Because what do I value? Do I value some nebulous reward, or do I value what is true? That's one of many objections I have to Pascal's wagers. It's not about what's true. It's about what you want to be true, or what you hope to be true. Well, if I believe this and I'm right, then I get this reward. And if I don't believe it, I lose nothing. No, but you do lose something, because you lose all the energy and effort that you put into that belief that wasn't true. So whatever time and energy and effort I put into my daydream of being rich, maybe it's, a few minutes here and there, maybe it's just, daydream, whatever, all that is wasted. So there you go. Um, so as long as one thinks that, let's see, the probability of God exists is non-zero, uh, one practically ought to believe in God. No, because it's not, again, you have this false dichotomy. It's not just belief in God. This is not a true dichotomy. I already covered this. It's not a true dichotomy because it's not just belief in God. That alone doesn't matter. It's belief in God, and the God also awards you for that belief. And that's only in certain concepts of God. So it doesn't work. Let's see. I set aside the classical objections for the purpose of the paper. Yeah, who cares about that? The motives associated with taking the wager. Well, you can't determine anybody's motives. Of course, they have to determine that for themselves. Some claim that those take Pascal's wager simply motivated by fear, hell, selfish desire, get the rewards of heaven. I don't really care what your motive is, and that's the other thing, is that your motive, God supposedly would know that. So this is actually a classic objection for against this. That if I just fake it because I'm worried about hell or I really want to go heaven, then my motive is suspect. But that's essentially what it's about. It's, here's this lovely carrot and this horrible stick. And if you believe this, you get the carrot. If you don't believe it, you get the stick. What you gonna do? And it's like, well, unfortunately, you're actually talking about a carrot that I cannot verify, and a stick that also I can't verify. I don't know, but the motives don't matter to me. But at any rate, it need not reflect poor, selfish motives. That's what the paper goes on to talk about. Um, there's a way of taking it that demonstrates genuine faith. I don't care about faith, because I have facts. So I'll leave that to this paper and whatever follows. So I think that's it. The rest of it, I'm not really, I don't, I'm not going to comment on it. There's nothing that I care about, because it's not a good wager. It's not even a wager. Pascal, by the way, didn't really finish. This was like incomplete. He like had part of it, and he didn't like flush it out or finish it before he died. Apparently, from what I've read. So I could be a little bit off about that. Let me know in the comments if I am. But regardless, here's just some mathematician back in the day that also happened to believe in God, and he came up with this idea. And but he already believed in the Christian God. He already believed in all these things. And when you present this, it just doesn't work. As I said, you can easily have a reductio ad absurdum and say, well, no, the actual God is one that rewards you for not believing in it and punishes you for believing in it. And that's how things really are. Therefore, you should, you get this infinite reward, and if you're wrong, you get a finite despair. And no, the wager, don't bother. Doesn't get you to the truth. It's not a way to get to the truth. That's another reason to object to it. What should matter is what is true. Is it true that there is a particular type of God that has particular desires and that I must do particular things in order to gain an audience with this particular God? And how would I or anyone else going about proving that that's true? Would it be empirical evidence, repeatable tests? Would it be a valid and sound argument? Or would it be the same old broken arguments that we've already heard from apologists and nothing much else to offer? Well, who knows? That's all I got for you now. Maybe the good doctor will respond to this. Doubt it. Don't think so. Probably not. Maybe adherent apologist will respond to this. Nah. No. That would take effort and energy. Maybe you guys and girls and robots will. I don't know. Hope so. Look forward to it. Until next time, be a lobster. Or skeptical. Or something. I don't know.